Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome again to Mile a Minute Movie Talk. And of course, this is Dylan from Diligent Picks and my co host Lucas of Blu-ray
Hello.
Films. How's it going, friend?
It is going well this week. Saw a lot of movies. Got a lot
Nice.
to talk about. How about you, sir?
Pretty good, yeah. It's been a shorter break in between. We were just here on Thursday
Yes.
and we are back. It's already Tuesday.
I do think that this is the most movies I'm coming to table with, though, which is kind of funny.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, we have a nice list for you guys. I'm hoping will probably be a little bit of a shorter episode than last time. That's the goal. But we're going to do a brief update on the awards season. There's been a little bit of a controversy with a particular film, which we will discuss shortly. We will talk about some stuff that on our Watch With Us list, including The Last of Us and The Banshees of Inisherin. We'll go over some new movies that came out in theaters this week. Will be coming out in theaters, as well as new Blu-ray releases that came out today, and all the movies we watched this week, as well as what we're hoping to see soon.
Yes.
So, Lucas, would you like to lead the way on this award season controversy that we've been
Yes.
discussing?
Little just touching on the two Leslie controversy, which was short-lived because it's already been solved today when the board met. But yeah, there was some questioning about some possible shenanigans going on with their campaign, that they might have violated something, done something that was against the code that they kind of have in place for campaigning for actor awards or just awards in general. We've seen it before, like I think it was in 2013 or 2012, somewhere around there, that a song was taken away its nomination because of violating how their campaign. And so, but yeah, this didn't happen for them. They said that they're just going to clarify, make more clear what you can and can't do, which I think is the best account because there wasn't really any, like, hardcore evidence. They kind of just did some stuff that they shouldn't have, like maybe a little bit not nice. Like, you're not supposed to compare, not supposed to promote your campaign where you're comparing your actor or actress or whatever you're campaigning for to a competitor, and they did that like multiple times. And then also they targeted Hollywood for their campaign rather than like having a big campaign for your consideration for people. They like targeted by using their friends and connections, which I think technically isn't against the rules, but some people don't like. But yeah, I think it was mostly just how they were doing the comparison thing.
Yeah, it was. I just remember reading that generally you're not supposed to name any other nominees
Exactly.
during any kind of campaigning, and I know there was a particular Instagram post that someone had put up that mentioned, I believe, Cate Blanchett, maybe a few others in the lead actress, running contenders, and that had since been removed during this investigation. So there was a lot of concern that maybe the film To Leslie and Andrea Riseborough's nomination would get rescinded. But yeah, I think this was probably the best thing to do because, at the end of the day, if they would have, as much as I would have loved to see an actress like Viola Davis for The Woman King or Danielle Deadwyler for the film Till, as much as I would have loved to see one of them get a nomination as deserving as they were, I feel like not doing anything in this instance is probably the best thing for everyone because it's like the damage would for like Andrea Riseborough that could that could kind of ruin a lot of her career aspirations in the future. And I just feel like
it just would be like really weird for them to like rescind something like that unless it was something really egregious, and it really wasn't according to their rules. It was just kind of like some stuff that you shouldn't do, but it wasn't like anything like crazy where they're like going directly after voters and like having them through their connections being like, you got to vote for her, blah blah blah. At least there's no concrete evidence of that, and they deducted that. So
yeah, for sure. So
definitely an interesting nomination. I think that was just like the thing, and then from that, people were like, well, now that there's this controversy, maybe that's why. And so it kind of blew it out more instead of like if this happened to one of the other nominees that were more predicted to get in.
Yeah, for sure. So I think at the end of the day, I'm happy with this decision. I was not upset by anything that was that. I was upset by that. Like I feel like maybe there was more deserving people in this category.
Yeah.
Except at the same time, I haven't seen
Yeah,
all
exactly.
of these films.
Yeah, out of all these, I haven't seen like maybe one or two, and Two Leslies will probably going to be one of the later ones I watch.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe moving it up now just to get it out of the way. And it's not that long of a film, so I might try to squeeze it in more before I watch a lot of these ones that are way longer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's probably going to be the extent of our Oscar talk this week.
Yes.
As we did plenty of it last week, and thank you for all of you who sat through that. We could not help ourselves. There was a lot to discuss.
Yeah.
we will definitely trickle on it. In our conversations here, but we will make sure come the week before the Oscars, we will do a full prediction, giving our personal favorites as well as who we do think will win each category.
Yes, yeah. Once we've had time to see a lot of the more ones that have actually been nominated, since we both have around just over or less 20 movies that we haven't seen.
Yeah, more or less. I want to say that we're hinting at more right now.
Definitely more. I think I'm at 22 I need left.
Actually, unfortunately, the last thing we'll say about that is there's a good 5 to 8 films that are not even available in our area or on streaming yet. So
yeah,
who knows if I'll get to see them.
Yeah, exactly. I got till March, but
Yeah, hopefully they'll get distribution. So with that, shall we go into either one of two, The Banshees of Inisherin or The Last of Us?
I think the biggest thing is The Last of Us, the essentially short film that has of an episode that has taken over pretty much all film and TV talk on the internet I've seen since the episode came out. All I'm seeing on TikTok, all I'm seeing on Twitter is that. People posting stuff from the game. And pretty much the consensus outside of some not great judgment or not great sounding critics is that it was just a great episode and it did what it did in such a masterful way, as well as departing from the game in such a tasteful way, I would say. But yeah, definitely the biggest thing coming out in film and TV in the last couple of weeks is just Last of Us. But this episode definitely has hit the pinnacle of its just talking points. And for as much as the first couple episodes have people saw, this one is just definitely staying out there in all the discussions online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think from my perspective of the first 3 episodes so far I felt that the opening of the very first episode was the strongest we've seen with the performances of Joel and his daughter Sarah, and
yes,
that whole mini almost short film in and of itself was amazing. And then I think I've enjoyed everything else since then. I haven't been too blown away, but this is also a perspective of someone who has not beaten the games. I've played the first game, but I haven't beaten it, and I don't remember a whole lot. I don't remember how far I got. I don't even know if I remember Bill,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I think that what'll be interesting is if we continue these discussions is seeing your reaction to these images versus mine, because I think we're going to have very different opinions in terms of the overall scope of the series, especially if you can remember what happened and what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm pretty good at I'm pretty familiar with the game. I played it, I watched someone play it, and then my girlfriend was watching someone on YouTube play it recently, so I've seen some parts, but I remember I think Bill I kind of watched a lot more of from when she was watching it. So, but yeah, his whole sequence in the game is completely different. He lives in a completely different area too, even though it's X amount of distance out of Boston. He's more of a small town rather than with but they're all buildings, not just houses. He's kind of put himself into that area, but in this one it's way more rural, and I do like how his character kind of is I take, because that's the one thing that we have to think about in this game. I mean, the game was made before the whole election of 2016, and so this character, that's when the game came out in 2013, so that's when the timeline kind of ends. But in this one now, it's 2003 is when the timeline ends from our timeline, is when the apocalypse first starts happening, September 26, 2003. So it's more interesting kind of seeing like that dynamic with him being kind of like the prepper and stuff. And so it wasn't as much of like a big thing in society, I guess. I mean, there was like always those like conspiracy theorist stuff, like characters in shows and movies in the 90s, but like at least in like a cultural sense, there wasn't as much. And so it's kind of cool watching him at that point doing that. But to go back to the beginning of the episode, I really liked how it begun. This is the first one that we haven't gotten a cold open in, at least in the sense of that it's not set in the mainline universe.
I did think that was really cool because I think, from all the reviews I've seen, a lot of people have really enjoyed the cold openings and seeing what happened in the past and then going to the present. And a lot of people have been questioning whether that's going to continue and and kind of hoping it would. So when they didn't have a cold opening and when the way they transitioned it was really well done.
Exactly.
You see this great scene where Joel is having to explain to Ellie why there's all these bones scattered in this area. He doesn't want her to see it, and then she goes and looks, and he has to tell a story of what happened. And then there's this great transition where we see the bones turn. You see like the clothing of someone and their skull or their bones, backpack or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it transitions into the actual people in that time. And then they slowly kind of like, if I recall, they like pan out and go away from them. But then you just get Bill and his perspective of all these people that are being transported away. If that's right.
Yeah, I did like the opening as well because it kind of served as like a cold opening of some sorts, but not like obviously as the way, but served as like kind of showing Joel's aspect of like what he did going there, how he got there, and then also kind of like having Ellie have her first kill. I don't think she's said in the show that she's killed the zombie because I know she was bit, but I don't think she killed it. She never said that she did. So kind of like her first like thing, kind of having this moment with that zombie where she kind of like stares at it, stares back at her, and maybe she's like reliving some memories from when she got bit. Because if you've played the game, small spoiler, someone was there with her. I'm not going to go into detail about that just in case it gets put out in the show. But yeah, there's someone with her. And so something might have happened to them. And so this is the first time she's essentially face to face with the zombie since that probable sequence. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I really liked how it kind of blended in to, you see this outfit kind of tattered on this one. And then you see like a really small skeleton and then like a blanket kind of pattern, like a kid pattern with rainbows, and then it pans out and you're like, oh, that's the mother and kid right there that are going to get killed. And I was like, that's super dark. And then it pans into good old Bill in his bunker, and then we just go off from there. They take them off, and the town's his. And then so he's like, hell yeah. And so he just goes and does all the stuff that he wanted to. And then leading up to that point, he future-proofs it, all that stuff, and then he runs into Frank through one of the traps that he set. And that's a huge difference from the game in that, or not a huge difference, I'd say. They were partners in the game. That's what they say. And the way that he talks about him in the game, it's very coded that they were like in a relationship together rather than friends, because he calls him his partner multiple times rather than like, oh, my friend, that's my friend who did. And the way that he talks about him is very reminiscent of like someone talking about someone that they loved passing away rather than a friend. And just like talking about like that he's the only idiot that would wear a shirt like that when he finds his body dead in the game. And that's one big thing in the game is that he's dead because they went their separate ways after fighting so much. And that's something that was different from a big departure in the show. And that's what thing that I really liked is that they're not trying to make everything as grim as they can, even though it's still sad how they eventually end up. But it's really nice to have like a hopeful, even though very sad episode, which is what it was. But yeah, he takes Frank in and they form this relationship, just bonding the first two humans. First human that Frank's really interacted with that it wasn't hostile, it seems. Or not Frank, sorry. Bill has interacted with hostile, it seems. Frank was in a group that they all died, is essentially what he says. And then they kind of just bond there. And then it takes us through the years, which I really liked through it. How about you?
Yeah.
leading up to that point.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, yeah, it was. I think up until we got to Frank, I was kind of like I wasn't as into what was going on because I didn't I
Yeah,
wasn't as familiar with Bill, but I was really interested in who he was and Nick Offerman, especially. This was seemed like a really interesting role for him to pursue because I'm so used to seeing Nick Offerman as Ron Swanson and Parks
yeah,
and Recreation and that comedic style character. So it was really great to see him in a more dramatic role.
yeah,
And I really loved how it played out with him and Frank because you didn't really know where it was going at first. He finds him, he brings him in, lets him take a shower, cooks him dinner, lets him play on the piano, and then all of a sudden they're in bed together. It was just
yes,
like
yeah,
it was great that they decided to do something like this because especially because there aren't a lot of series that I've seen personally where a gay relationship is done as well as this was.
yeah.
And
It felt
I've
very reminiscent of like the early like queer cinema of
mm,
like maybe or not early, but like the new queer cinema of like the 90s and 80s, where there's very much more focused on like the characters rather than like the tragedy of the characters, which is something that
mm,
is really like hard to departure for in like at least gay relationship cinema, because a lot of the ones coming out at that time are relating to a lot of the like AIDS and stuff that were going on. And so it was living through that and living through the bigotry that they had to face. Whereas you have a relationship in this where it's two people that are in a taboo relationship at that time. Like, remember, this is 2003, so gay marriage is still illegal in this world. You're coming out of the Bush administration, so this is very, very. I mean, people lived gay lives and had these relationships at that time, but it wasn't as a big thing in our world, at least in America, as it was today in our real world. So it was kind of really nice to see kind of like this relationship happen, as well as just like two people bonding in a certain way that they probably never had before because just how they grew up and how they lived. Where we know with Bill he hasn't, but Frank he might have. You never know, but it's very, very something that like Bill has never lived his life. It's kind of how you feel at that point. I think I don't know. Remember if that was a quote, but no, it's not a quote. But it's like Bill had survived up until that point, but Frank helped him learn how to live his life, and that's kind of like something that was like really important, I think, with this story compared to the one in the video games. The video game just shows the tragedy of not being able to save the people you love with their story, and kind of the bruteness and the sternness of yourself can get in the way of saving someone. Whereas we've kind of seen that with Tess and Joel's dynamic, is that their separation and their kind of not headbutting, but like them not being able to like be one and one with each other. They weren't able to save each other in the way that they wanted to. And so Bill and Frank's storyline really shows you that, like, if you're there and like what you can do to protect the one that you need to. And like his whole note that he had was just so great and like detailing that out. I think that's the really important part, is having this story compared to the one that was in the video game, is that it really shows you a dynamic in between the kind of character that Joel is realizing he has to become and being like a savior and a protector for someone that needs him. And that's how Bill was for Frank. And that was really like important. Also, on that note too, I really love how Bill and Frank kind of have a more dynamic with Tess and Joel a little bit compared to the video games. They knew of them, but in the video game, Joel didn't know who Frank was and never met him. Where in this one, they kind of have like a friendship where they like do double dates and stuff, which is kind of cute. And they have more of a dynamic where they're interacting. Where in the games, they kind of just run. You feel like they knew Bill like a little bit in the games. Like they ran into him a couple times doing runs, but not as much as they do in this, especially kind of fleshing out Tess and Joel's relationship a little bit more too, which I really liked.
yeah, I there was a lot of things I loved about how they depicted this relationship, especially because they had the sort of like three main sections that they showed where it was like, right at the
Exactly.
beginning, and then what was it? I think 4 years later.
Yeah,
I
4
think it
years, and
was
then there was like 13, and then right before where they arrived.
yeah. And I like seeing the relationship grow and change. How there's this great moment where like Frank's like, "Oh, I want to paint. I want to do all these
Yeah,
things," and like, and he's like, "Oh, and I invited people over for dinner." He's like,
he's like,
"What?"
what?
and
Yeah,
because they're like the perfect example of an
yeah,
opposites attract couple.
Yeah, I really like that one joke during that scene too, where he's like, "Oh, before all this, you were all just cooped up. 9/11 was an inside job, and the government's Nazis. The government is Nazis." He's like, "That's now, not before."
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
just
like that banter. That's the only thing that I'll say is that I'm gonna miss from the video game is Bill and Ellie's banter was so funny in the video game, where she's just like bullying him the whole time and he's always just treating her like a little annoying brat. That was really fun. So I hope they flesh that out more with her and Joel, but that's the only thing I'm missing. But I can live without it as long as they bring more of that banter and fun. Because that was like one of my favorite part of the games, just really fleshing out the characters through their banter. And that's kind of what they did with Frank and Bill, is they fleshed Bill out in that sense with Frank instead of in the game. It was like him and Ellie just combating each other. These two iconic queer characters now.
yeah. Yeah, because I just loved watching the way they interacted was so different, especially that scene where they're having dinner, because Frank's like hosting and he's having a ball talking to everybody, and like you see Bill just right there having his gun out on the table and just like ready at any moment to do something. But like the closest thing I could compare this relationship to was one I saw recently in the film Supernova with Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci, because they both had this similar like it's not obviously not like a post-apocalyptic thing, but like they had a similar depiction of their relationship where like one of them is dying of cancer, and you do get the same like conversations about like what the person wants like their last day to be and all of that. And so like the emotional impact that this film leaves, like that was the closest thing I can compare to. And that was a feature-length film.
Yeah.
And that was extremely well done. But the way they did it in this was even better, because like it was also like even more heartbreaking, because they have this moment where Frank wants Bill to do like all these exact things. He wants them, we're gonna have one great day together. Wants to make him dinner.
Yeah, because this is the day that he's showing is like, I'm withering away and I don't want to live like this. I want to go out in a way that I want to. Yeah. I don't want to be at a point where I can't be myself anymore. So he's like, let's have one great day together, and then you can go on without me. And like, just touching on that. Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh, you can go.
When they finally have that like scene where they're, he's pouring the wine, and in the back of your head you're thinking like, he totally did it for both of them. And then they have that conversation about like, how many pills did you put, or all of them, etc., enough to kill a horse or whatever.
Because he was like, how much did you put in the bottle before you poured it? He was like, enough to kill a horse. And so he's like, so it's kind of, I really liked that. There's so much nuance in the characters between them. There's so much going on as well as that, because you would just look at the way that they interacted with each other and you could tell that the way that they're acting, it just felt like you're watching an actual like old couple being together. And that was the thing that was like really nice. The nuance of their performance just made it feel like they really made you believe like, oh, these people have been together for so long and they just understand each other at this point, and they like don't want to live without each other. And like, he had some great quotes. I can't remember any of them right now, but I think he was like, I have lived with you, and you this is all I've wanted, and you're like the one that I want to protect, and you're all I've needed, and I have lived. My purpose, I don't need, basically. Yeah, you were my purpose. That was one. Yeah. I have lived. You were my purpose was like the quote, and I was like, that was like so good, because like that's the thing in the note too. He said he was like, I hated, when the world went to shit, I was glad everyone died. But then he was like, but then Frank showed up, and then Frank made me really made me feel like the world could be alive. And like, just that note really encapsulates a lot too, as well as like, you don't have to have a big exposition thing, but like having those notes, which is kind of like how they do in video games, you have a lot of outer world building exposition stuff go on in notes that you find. They've kind of had that a little bit here and there in the show, which I really like. But yeah, I definitely, it was just such a good, like, very much self-contained episode that got the characters to the point where they need to be. And it definitely makes the show, because after this, it's going to get real dark, obviously. You don't have a bunch of tragedies back to back to back. I feel like if you just have the whole show be like The Road, then you're just making The Road, but as a TV show where it's just the world sucks, it's post-apocalyptic. Whereas more in the game, it does have that, but you have long-winded sections that are very vast and different, and you're playing, so they aren't going to be as sequential. But if you just keep putting people down every episode or something like that, even though this one did have a sadder ending, it does bring in that aspect of hope and protection and, living a life that's worth living. And that's kind of what they're doing with the show, is bringing that overarching theme into the main focus of the show, which I think is the big important part, is what are they trying to teach, or what are they trying to show the audience, like they did in the video game. They're trying to more drill that in a smaller time frame compared to a video game. And I really like how they're doing it in the show, changing the things that they need to make it fit and also make it kind of gel together better. Because I definitely like how, now there's going to be a lot of dark things. We saw the preview for the next episode, which is the whole Pittsburgh incident. And so that'll be crazy. I can't wait to see how violent Joel's going to get. That'll be insane. But yeah, it's like a nice calm before the storm of trying to get to where they are, and kind of illustrating what Joel is now thinking, exactly what he needs to do in this situation with this person he is now tasked to take care of by himself.
Yeah. There's a couple stray observations that I really enjoyed in this episode. I enjoyed just Frank showing Bill the strawberries and
the strawberries.
I really actually love that they didn't have Joel open the door to see them because that was a really lovely way to just end that moment.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a great way that how they chose to do that.
Yeah.
I love the scenes where there's a lot of great Ellie moments in this episode where she discovers the Mortal Kombat arcade.
Yeah.
And talks about Melina's fatality. And
I like how they got the actual rights, because in the video game they use it like a knockoff thing and all that. So it's cool that they got the rights to Mortal Kombat to actually talk about it.
I also love the I think my favorite part for Ellie was when she's actually reading the letter from Bill, and the suicide note from Bill, and he says at some point says something about I'm glad you didn't get caught in my traps or something, and then you just hear the what? Hey, if you're reading this, it was to Joel, it was to whoever finds this, but probably Joel, and I was hey, nice to see that you made it in and that you didn't get trapped and caught in my traps. He. The way she reads it, because she doesn't have that kind of text jive, I guess. I mean, texting was only around for so long before that, but there's still the way that you treat that is just something like that. That's a great point too, because there's another great Ellie moment where because you start to realize she doesn't understand a lot of technology or things. Mm-hmm. There's even that moment where she's just at the very end of the episode when they're in the car and she's touching all the
she doesn't know how a seatbelt works.
Yeah. And she tries, putting the cassette tape on, and he's who was it?
Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah, Linda Ronstadt.
Who is now trending because of this episode. Not to the magnitude of Stranger Things, but pretty high.
Yeah.
Which is this is great.
That was almost a throwback to, in a way, just maybe a straight, very far-fetched throwback, but to Joel and Sarah, when Sarah gives him the physical copy for his birthday of that movie. Mm-hmm. And just the dynamic of oh, you've never seen this, or oh, you don't know who this is, or just the bonding. This is just a teeny hint of the sort of father-daughter dynamic. Protector. Yeah,
because he still has his guard up very heavily, as you can tell, but he's kind of breaking away slowly and slowly. I feel like in the video game it was more impactful of a sequence, the whole Bill thing, because they have to go through all this stuff. They have a boss fight, blah blah blah. They have to get the car battery because they have to build it. Bill doesn't have a running one. But in this one, I like kind of how this is Bill's departing gift, and even though it doesn't build up their relationship as much, Joel and Ellie's, I think that it makes more importance on the whole Pittsburgh sequence, which I feel is one of my favorite parts of the game. And then we're gonna have that crazy villain after, and oh god,
Yeah,
What's his
so
name?
I'm completely like, what is? I mean, I
Yeah,
kind of remember, I briefly in the back of my mind have a memory of the Pittsburgh moment, but
yeah,
it's still like very like blurry.
yeah,
I do think like a like to say one more great thing about this episode, there was the moment where Ellie's almost done with the suicide note, and
hmm
she comes across Tess written, how Bill had written something along the lines of like protect, make sure you protect, keep Tess safe. But then,
yeah,
she stops reading it,
yeah, because she knows.
and then
Uh,
you do see it. But it's just like I love the visual storytelling of that, the nonverbal of Joel just looking at the letter, and they do a close up of Tess's name
yeah,
handwritten, and like that's just great. Like because there's been so many good moments of Joel's like just lingering on Joel's expressions, such as when he was debating whether to like beat up the guy at the end of the first movie or first episode, or when he was looking straight into Tessa's eyes at the end of
hmm
episode 2, and just like lingering on him, like
yeah.
how you're always wondering what's going on in his head.
That was such a big aspect from the games too. There's a lot of like very shots where they would let the facials of the actor really tell what's going on rather than doing a lot. It's not a very dialogue heavy, at least in acting wise. There's a lot of just facial acting that was going on in the games. I'm like that they're transitioning that in a nice way. And like to touch on that point too, I'm really glad that the story is going in a different way. Overall, the overarching story will probably go in the same way. But like a lot of the key pieces are being changed and moved around, and like that's why it's an adaptation. I would not want like a 1-to-1 recreation because obviously just play the game, especially with the new HD update. It's like the game looks so good now, just play the game. I want a more realistic one that feels like it could possibly be in this world, which is kind of like what they're doing, but also it's just like more. They have more liberties to do stuff that they couldn't do maybe when they first made the game. The more creative freedom, or as well as the more budgetary freedom, like small things like the plane crash at the beginning. That was super cool, and the different thing that kind of faked out people that played the games. Like you're like, oh, he's gonna get T-boned. No, a plane crashes. Like stuff like that. I really like that. Plus the cold openings. Obviously, I think everyone loves those, and I hope we see them more. But definitely, I think we will. But it'll be. It's just so good so far, and how they're doing it is such a way that is just refreshing for people that play the game and just a good TV for people that haven't. And it's very believable and great acting from just everyone. And it's such a stellar cast and just stellar performances so far. I'm just really in love with the show more than I thought I would be. You know, you kind of have that reserve.
It's
But
hard not to with video game adaptations.
yeah, it's definitely probably the easiest video game adaptation to do compared to like Sonic or something. You don't have as much fantastical things, but like even easier ones people have messed up. Like you feel like Resident Evil would be straightforward, but they haven't really done that great.
Yeah,
like there's been some okay ones, but definitely not to this level.
yeah, and this is definitely like it's definitely setting the bar high as far as what a good video game adaptation could be and does look like. And I think I've enjoyed watching a lot of the inside the episodes that they do at the end. If you watch,
exactly, that's really nice that they put that at the end. You don't even have to click on it; it just plays like a 5-10 minute clip of them talking about behind the episode. And I love that.
Yeah, and seeing Neil Druckmann, the creator, like
Mm-hmm.
hearing his perspective on like, well, every time we decided like to make a change, whether it was good or bad, we always like gave ourselves one question: was does this improve the game? Does this make things better, or does it not, or does it need to be here? Does it not? And like they always he sounds like he has a really great system for deciding what to cut and what to expand.
Yeah, it's great that he's such an integral part of it too in the writing process and the creation process, because he's the guy who made the first one and just continuation of that. And like he knows his world that he made, and he knows what's good and what's bad and what to cut so far, and it's just been really great so far.
That's how I feel about the way I'm really liking how HBO is kind of giving a lot of their showrunners. They're getting people that are really, really embedded in the history of their creations, such as George R. R. Martin as the showrunner or executive producer, etc. for House of the Dragon, having so much actual involvement is
Yeah.
really important to making a great adaptation. And they've just been HBO Max has been blowing it out of the park as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But
Don't talk about animation, but
well, yeah, as far as
yeah,
that's a whole
but
nother topic.
they've been really good with their what is it, narrative series. Like even Mike White, they gave him all this control. He hadn't really done a magnitude series like that. He's done a lot of shows, and White Lotus is so popular, like one of the higher nominated stuff, and just like continuations of that. Their approach to making and adapting and just funding, creating, distributing narrative live action works is just a perfect formula that they've accumulated for years, and it's great that they're just like continuing that. It hasn't really been affected.
Yeah. For those who haven't watched The Last of Us yet, it's I would say for me, like if you're someone who's seen similar shows that have like a post-apocalyptic world or like something kind of like a zombie sort of thing, like The Walking Dead, definitely give it a try, because for me, I'm someone who stopped watching The Walking Dead because of how slow and how boring a lot of the episodes got to me and how mundane. And I feel like when there are moments where when I'm watching Last of Us where I feel like it could teeter on that at any point, it always surprises me with something different. Like it hasn't gone down that route. Like this episode was a perfect example of that, where the entire episode could have just been Joel and Ellie wandering around. And I would have been like, oh God, please don't make this every episode, unless it's like the most amazing banter and hilarious and some action maybe. But so definitely give The Last of Us a chance if you haven't seen it. It's only 3 episodes in now.
Some of most of the episodes are around 60 minutes, but the first and the third one were like about almost 80. So they're almost like short movies, but it's only like 8 episodes, I think, for the first season. 9 episodes. I think it's 9. So it's definitely, it's definitely not a lot of commitment, especially if you're watching it as it's coming out. It's pretty fun. It's just probably one of the best TV shows of the 2020s so far. Definitely. That isn't like a sequel of something. It's just really good. I definitely think it's pretty easily one of the best things I've watched that's a TV show in the last 5 years.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So we will definitely continue to talk about it more and give our weekly thoughts.
Leading up to the Oscars, there's going to be that time where we can talk about them. I'm very curious. Wait, I think it might end like right around the Oscars, but I think it'll be perfect timing for us.
Yeah. Nice. Well, let's see.
After that, we have Oscar-nominated talk.
Yeah, sure. We can talk at least about one Best Picture nominee.
Yes, one Best Picture. A lot of actors and actresses. I was the one that hasn't seen it. I think it was, I forget. I'm not going to say how many nominations because I don't know. But yeah, I got 4 acting nominations, which is crazy. Best Picture and some other things. What did you think about it? Because I haven't heard much from you because I hadn't seen it, so you can spoil it. What do you think?
Well, you've seen it now, right?
Yes. So now you can spoil it. So this will be spoilery about Banshees as it was for Last of Us. So
I've now seen all of Martin McDonagh's films, and I kind of like most of them all equally. I don't think this one stands out as like the best of the best, but I do think it is very good. It's very well done. Obviously, terrific performances all around. They're all well deserved. Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, Kerry Condon, and Barry Keoghan. Are we going Keoghan? I think it's Keoghan.
Keoghan.
And I think that as a story, I thought it was a really interesting plot. Like I love the idea of a film that delves into a fallout of a friendship, and I think it did a good job of shifting between like decent bits of comedy with a lot of like dark moments, and there's a lot of surprising dark moments that really got to me, particularly what everyone has been talking about regarding some fingers that made their way to other species and caused a lot of problems. And it's like I almost don't want to spoil that part too much, but it's basically
it's a way that Brendan Gleeson's character deals with Colm, deals with his friend. I forget his name.
Podrick.
Played by Podrick. Yeah, deals with
Podrick. Oh, sorry,
yeah, deals
I was
with.
trying to
You're
pronounce
fine.
it
Yeah,
again.
Piedrick deals with trying to get him away, and so yeah, I really think the best thing about this is the script and the acting, definitely the most. I honestly wasn't as I thought. I didn't have any hype going into the movie, but I just wasn't as
Mhm.
intrigued with the movie outside of the characters. I felt like, excuse me, the movie's not that long, but it still kind of felt like there was a lot of just the same mulling going on over certain things, and I feel like that's the point with the
Yeah.
movie because it's very much like an allegory for like Irish struggle and infighting in like the region, and so and we see that directly with them looking at the mainland and them being like, "Oh, what are they fighting about? Who am I going to work for this execution? I don't care." So it's kind of like this outside, like, but it's very much those characters kind of like the self mutilation and self like sabotage and like the want as well for like a bigger purpose. I feel like just at this point in my life, this movie didn't mean as much as it could have, like maybe
Mm.
when I was in my earlier 20s
Mm.
and like late teens. But I really liked it, and I think definitely uh, I really like the characters, especially obviously Patrick and Colin, played by Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell. And I really liked his sister. I was not thinking that she was going to be as big of as fun of a character, you know. Just like she
Yeah.
was really fun. Carrie Condon, she obviously, as we said, from Better Call Saul. Um, but yeah, she's been in some other things as well. But I
Yeah.
really liked. She's been in a lot of things actually. But yeah, I really liked her character. I'm kind of tired. I don't want to be mean, but I'm kind of tired of Barry Keoghan
Okay.
playing the guy who seems like he's a little bit slow for some reason character
Hmm.
that has like a tragedy essentially because he's played that in like so many roles.
I think he's definitely, yeah.
He's that in Dunkirk, and he's like that in Banshees of Inisherin, and he's that in Killing of a Sacred Deer. And so, like, I felt like those are like the three movies I really associate him with, and like, he kind of seems to play like at least in those three roles, kind of plays like this sad, tragic character that dies or has a bad ending.
Yeah.
And I really think that this one kind of is the letdown of all of those. I feel like he was the weakest character of those four that have been nominated. He still was a really good character. I really like some of those scenes, especially the one that he had with Carrie.
Uh,
That one's like great. But yeah, him just being dead at the end, it was like, okay, that was kind of a throwaway, and you kind of could feel like he was already going to die anyway. He was just
it
like this
was,
tragic character that was just going to like end up in the worst possible way. So I felt like him existing in it was like very meh. But I did like the movie a lot. Definitely the ending was pretty interesting. Just because you realize, oh, they're just going to keep doing this, even though he has no fingers.
yeah. Yeah. It, I see what you're saying because it felt like they were really examining the friendship the whole episode in terms of like, okay, when is Colin gonna come around to Podrick, and
Mm-hmm.
when is it when are things gonna get better, and
Mm-hmm.
it never quite does, and
Mm-hmm. It
it's
was
like
like
how far are
watching
they
a like cold civil war.
right? It's like how far are they both willing to go, and it's like Podrick does everything he can't that he can think of
Mm-hmm.
to try to get him to be his friend again, and it just makes everything worse.
Yeah,
And Calm is very literal and very honest about what he will do if he continues to bother him, and so things
yeah,
just escalate in the saddest way.
yeah,
And but yeah, with Barry Keoghan, maybe this is the sign that like now that he's finally gotten like nominated for a weirder role like this, that Hollywood will take notice and put him in movies where he doesn't always have to be that weird guy.
yeah. Because he's very much played that in these. I mean, Eternals, he isn't that. And American Animals, I don't even remember that movie, so I'm not going to comment on that. But yeah, like Batman, he's what, the Joker?
I totally forgot about. Yeah, I totally forgot
Yeah,
about
he's
that.
in it for like a scene. But yeah, Green Knight, I forget. I don't think he's really like that. He's more like he kind of he. I feel like people kind of give that like early Leonardo DiCaprio thing, like Leonardo DiCaprio's in what's eating Gilbert's Grape, and people thought that he actually had like a you know a mental problem of some sorts
Oh.
when he didn't. But and this, why does Barry Keoghan keep playing characters that seem to have something wrong with them? And it's kind of annoying because if you see like stuff with him, he's kind of being typecast in like this weird way that I don't like. Because outside of those roles, he's great, but like it just like peeves me a little bit. I didn't really like him. I didn't really like Killing the Secretary though, so
Yeah,
I feel like it kind of transfers. But yeah, I definitely don't think personally I would give it Best Picture, but I definitely see strong cases for all of its other nominations.
yeah, absolutely. I could see it. I think it has, I think the lead actor performances are really, there's a chance one or are they both leaders? Are they both? Yeah. Right?
I think Gleason went.
Because they got
What's
double
it called?
nominated. No. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, Gleason and I think Barry Keoghan are
Yeah.
double nominated as supporting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gleason winning as supporting, Colin.
So I could see maybe
Yeah.
one of them winning. They might cancel each other out, and I think maybe Colin Farrell has a shot at winning. But
yeah, got 8 nominations.
Picture, yeah, like Best Picture, I just don't see it. But
yeah,
I definitely think writing, like the writing, is so tight in this film.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, a good overall film. Like good bits of comedy, surprising. Just a very interesting character study that we don't get a lot.
Yeah,
and Martin McDonagh, you really can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I feel personally it's such a stacked year. I feel like if this came out last year, it'd probably win like 6 Oscars. But because it's this year, it's like I was like, oh, maybe Best Directing. Martin McDonagh did this very just really well done film from him, and then like, oh wait, he's up against the Daniels and Spielberg, and then I was like, oh well, original screenplay, the Daniels and Spielberg, and then
it's gonna be tough.
I feel like with a lot of McDonagh movies that have won, a lot of them end up being more character winning ones than ones for the director or anything else. And so I feel like this is going to be another one where he's kind of like the vessel that's helping these longtime Hollywood people get Oscars, but he never gets one himself, which is what happened with 3 Billboards. He got Sam Rockwell and what's her name? Frances McDormand both won for those, but he didn't win anything. I think he might have won screenplay. I think, but yeah.
I mean, he's a fantastic filmmaker, and I think it's just he's kind of gotten unlucky in terms of the year he's getting his film nominated for. Because like this year is so stacked that any other year this would be like your typical Oscar like Best Picture favorite, or like even like I don't like to quite call it Oscar bait, but it's a drama. It's definitely like the typical Oscar movie.
Yeah.
I don't know, but just I enjoyed it a lot. I do recommend everyone see it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, if anything, I don't think he'll get director, but I think he has a good plan.
Was he nominated for director?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
This film has been nominated, at least for him, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay. He's won an Oscar for a short, but he's never won. Right. He lost for Original Screenplay and Best Direct. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong awards. He won for. He got nominated for Best Original Screenplay twice and Best Picture once. Before. So it definitely seems like I really like his movies, but I like some of his other movies a little bit more. And I feel like he might get original screenplay, but it's just a stacked year, so it's really hard. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like I would really give him some of these awards like last year and the year before, but like it's just this year is so hard. But I really do think as a recommendation, I would say just if you want to watch just a good drama, definitely watch it. I feel like some people get lost. Some people definitely will not get interested in it. I enjoyed it, but I don't think I'll ever go back to it again. I would definitely rather go back to In Bruges, or 3 Billboards, or even 7 Psychopaths, just because that one's way more funny.
I agree. As far as all of those films, I really do need to rewatch In Bruges, and there's a new 4K.
Yeah. So I feel like honestly, it's his least enjoyable film.
I think that's a very fair stance based on the subject matter alone.
It's a really well-made film, but it's just one that you don't really want to return to, but you can respect and say like, oh, this was a really good movie, but it's just not something for me. And it's definitely from someone who's done some great stuff before. I would definitely rather like, I think In Bruges, even though it's like his first film, was like his best one.
There's often times where, depending on who you are, that is
Yeah.
still the case.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
But yeah, definitely a strong contender. But yeah, I didn't get those full Oscar vibes, But
for sure.
in past we've been wrong, and we've had some very non-Oscar vibey Shape of Waters win stuff.
That's true. So, well, we're gonna wrap things up today with a couple discussions of new things, all the new stuff. So,
yes,
a couple movies coming out in theaters this week for those of you who would like to see them. There's for the older crowd, 80 for Brady. I'm not so sure about that myself, but
I don't think either of us will make our way out to see that in theaters just because we are in Oscar season. But yeah, older crowd enjoy what's her name? Jane Fonda comedies. Like the book club one that she had, that's what it is. It's nothing great. It might be funny for a certain demographic.
Yeah, you got a stacked cast, that's for sure. Lily Tomlin, Sally Field, Jane Fonda.
Guy Fieri.
I did not realize Guy Fieri was in it.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. And then we got a big wide release coming out from director M. Night Shyamalan, his film Knock at the Cabin. M. Knock Shyamalan's Night at the Cabin. Yes.
Yeah, Knock at the Cabin. That'll be interesting. I'm definitely going to wait until I get more knowledge from people that'll see it, like you, which when you get into our watch list for the week, I think you're definitely going to see that.
I might. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I'm really keen on seeing his movies in theaters unless they get crazy praise like Split and such.
That's fair. And then we have some Blu-ray releases, physical media fans. We got a 4K release of Dawn of the Dead 2014.
Ooh.
Or sorry, 2004. I haven't seen that since it came out.
I have a Blu-ray, so I should upgrade.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Who wants a free Blu-ray? Comment down below.
The giveaway. Is this happening? No. You got to buy it first, I think.
Exactly.
And then we'll plan a giveaway if you want. But yeah, so I still need to see the original Dawn of the Dead, so that's kind of before I want to venture back on the remake game.
Mm-hmm.
Crimes of the Future 4K. Still never saw that.
Yeah.
Is that was David Cronenberg?
David Cronenberg. Brennan Cronenberg came out last week that we didn't touch on. Infinity Pools. I think we might have talked about it very briefly.
I don't think we did.
I think we talked about that we might go and see it, but we never did. But yeah, that's out. That one's getting really good reviews, so definitely want to see that. But yeah.
I've heard some people have enjoyed it, and some people it's not for everyone. But
sounds like a very X time.
Okay.
There was just also like a lot of the sexual stuff going on.
Oh, I see. For those fans of Roadhouse, we're getting a 4K of Roadhouse. Never saw Roadhouse.
Patrick Swayze.
I do need to see Roadhouse.
There's
eventually a remake.
Yeah, there's a Roadhouse joke in that detention movie I watched like 3 weeks ago. It's pretty funny.
Oh. And then Bones and All. That's a film that a lot of people might have had some possible
award buzz. Yeah,
contention, but
fell very hard to the wayside. Luca Guadagnino.
Yeah, Luca Guadagnino.
Yeah, Guadagnino. That's definitely right. I was just riffing. Yeah,
it's hard. It's a hard name.
What was the one that he got? Oh yeah, he was Call Me by Your Name.
Yes,
was the one that he got all the nominations for, and then
Timothy Chalamet reunion. Well, yeah, that's really the big stuff that I took note of. Was there anything I missed?
Nothing that really came out up into my my radar. There's a bunch of re-releases I've been looking at, but they're all re-released in theaters, so nothing crazy.
Well, would you like to lead the way as far as what you watched this week?
So this week I watched very briefly Bodies, Banshees of Inisherin. I already talked about. I rewatched Children of Men with my girlfriend who had never seen it, and then The Wandering Earth, the first one, because I'm planning on possibly seeing Wandering Earth 2 within the next 2 weeks, hopefully. I've heard way better reviews about it. Wandering Earth 1 is just like a 90s blockbuster from China, but came out like 3 years ago. It's nothing special, but it's fun to watch.
Okay.
Pretty inoffensive. It's just post-apocalyptic or post world dying kind of thing. but they put a bunch of jets on the Earth and they're trying to fly to a new sun.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. The CGI is really bad for a blockbuster, but it's, I mean, some of it looks very like PS3-esque, but it's
Okay.
not too bad.
Yeah.
Bodies is great. Tucker and Dale for Gen Z is pretty much my quick review of that.
Huh.
A lot of the banter is really great. Just really fun. A lot of actresses that you'll like. What's her name from Shiva Baby is like the best in it. What's her name? Rachel Sennett.
Yeah, from Shiva Baby.
Then they had Maria Bakalova off of her Borat hype, and then Amanda Steinberg.
Oh
Stenberg.
my gosh, wow.
She's in it too. And then there's some other people. Lee Pace pops up. Connor O'Malley's in there for a second, and Pete Davidson. So it was great.
That's
I thought
cool.
it was a really fun comedy. Very, very not great comedies coming out lately. So yeah. And then we talked about Banshees. What?
Yeah, you sold me with Tucker and Dale for Gen Z.
Yeah, very, very much. That's what the rift I got it. It's like just a really fun horror comedy.
Nice.
And then Children of Men. What else needs to be said about that movie? It's great. Watch it if you want some more Last of Us style apocalyptic stuff. That's fun. It's not that long. It feels like it could be a long movie. It is an hour and 45 minutes. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. That is God, what's his name? He kind of Clive Owens. I was going to say Clive Barker. Clive Owens, Julian Moore, Michael Caine, Chiwetel
Okafor.
Yeah, Chiwetel Okafor. And then Charlie Hunnam's a smaller character, and Claire Hope Ashley.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen that.
Yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't. I have it on my Vudu, so I can just give you my. It was the Vudu free movies. Remember a couple months ago for Up-He Rewards, Universal.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, definitely. I'll have to keep up on that one.
Yeah,
it's been on my list for ever.
Yeah, that's a great one. You should definitely check it out before Last of Us ends, just because it's like in the same vein. At least that kind of like saviorism and all that.
Okay. Well, I watched She Said, The Sea Beast, and All Quiet on the Western Front. I did touch on that I watched it last time, but I feel like it deserves to be at least discussed briefly.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out soon.
Mm-hmm.
Seamus, my friend, recommended me Dead a while ago, and I should have seen it earlier, but I still haven't.
That's okay.
I still kick myself that I didn't see it in theaters.
That would have been a good one for theaters.
Yeah.
Well, She Said. So I was actually very pleasantly surprised with how much I liked that film. I thought on paper it was going to be a little like, I don't know, like I was expecting kind of like not like a Hallmark feel, but like just something that felt like very like, I don't know, low budget, not very intense, just kind of like, this is what happened and this is how it happened. Like I was not expecting it to be as riveting as it was.
Okay.
It has a great tone with the drama. If you're into journalism features, like Spotlight and things like that. Or what's the other?
Yeah,
what's the?
That was the Bombshell.
Yeah, and so the performances are fantastic, and this is dealing with the Harvey Weinstein issue that happened. I want to say 2016,
17.
Yeah, 16. And how that all happened, and like the journalist behind the story that broke the news, and then of course what ended up becoming the Me Too movement. And so like what I really appreciated was it really gave the victims central storytelling. They show like brief snippets of the victims' lives, like when they were like before all of the bad things happened to them, and you kind of see like a mix of interviewing throughout a lot of the movie, as well as like actual moments where not like really graphic moments of any kind, but just really like kind of sad, like brief moments of people that like, because you're hearing a lot of stories being told. You're hearing a lot of these women come forward and say like, this is what happened to me. And so I was just really surprised. I highly recommend it. I'd give it solid 4 out of 5.
Okay.
The Sea Beast I just watched last night, and that completes my Oscar animation list for the 5 feature films.
Nice.
I will say definitely the weakest. Maybe kind of close tie with like Turning Red. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Okay,
It was enjoyable.
that's what I gave Banshees.
Okay. Well, it was definitely enjoyable, but the animation felt a little uninspired to me. It felt
Okay.
very either like they were trying to be Disney or trying to be Pixar, but it didn't really feel like this animation studio that like Netflix, I believe, is behind. Like it didn't really feel like I could distinguish them from anything else.
Okay, yeah.
I think the best part about the film is simply the message, which is, like it's about all these, hunters, aka like basically pirates trying to capture the sea beast, and how they act like it's essentially talking about how history isn't always correct or true, or heroes might have done actually bad things, and like you sort of see like you see a lot from the perspective of the beast itself and these characters, and I thought it was a sweet story. I definitely recommend seeing it, but it's not anything amazing. It's a fun watch when you're in the mood,
Yeah.
And then, of course, All Quiet on the Western Front. The film basically, as people keep saying it basically directs itself. It's like, it's a remake of a war film from, I believe, World War One. It's, set in like around 1917, and the whole films is like showing you the lives of these men who went to war, and everything starts great. They're all excited, and then it slowly gets really sad, and it's basically the classic like war is hell.
Yeah.
I'd give it a good 4 out of 5 because it's very raw. It's got a really great score with like this recurring drum line that kind of kicks in every now and then, and it kind of it hints that like throughout the whole movie, like this is just going to get worse.
Yeah, I really liked the original one. I never saw that. I saw that in high school for a class, my world history class. My teacher showed us that, which is crazy. But I really liked that first one, and I think this one, I've heard it falls more in line with a less graphic version of Come and See, but it's based on it's like the World War One version of Come and See, but less graphic.
There's definitely a few scenes in particular that were hard for me to watch.
Okay,
it's not as graphic in terms of like showing you like decapitation or limbs and explosions and that, but there are some like just tough scenes of like people dying, and like they really linger on this shot of this guy who like is like just basically dying, but he takes a long time. And
like in the original, they have some graphic scenes. Like there's a scene where a guy gets blown up and then his hands are just there. I don't know if they recreated that, but he's like holding barbed wire trying to get out of the hole, and he gets blown up, and then all that's left is just his hands from his wrist down.
Yeah, I don't think they quite did that, but there is this like maybe an ode to that in some way, which I won't spoil. But I highly recommend it. But it's definitely like you need to be in the mood for that,
Yeah. If you're ever in the mood for a movie like that, again, we should definitely watch Come and See.
I definitely really want to see Come and See.
I have the Criterion. I still haven't watched it.
Oh, yeah.
I've been like waiting to be in the mood for it.
Yeah. Well, the thing. If you need a little boost, I'll watch it with you sometime. For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, guys, I think that might do it for us. Was there anything else we needed to touch on that we
just anything that we might see this week? All I have right now is I'm going to see Assault on Precinct 13, the original John Carpenter one, in theaters. That'll be fun. And then I'm going to see Wandering Earth 2, possibly. And then I'm going to see possibly Infinity Pool. But that's about it.
Yeah. Chalk me up for possibly Infinity Pool, possibly Missing.
Yeah, same. I feel that. I definitely don't think I'll get around to it, though. I think one Oscar, I got to at least pick which one I'm going to watch this week.
Yeah, I'm going to keep up with... I did okay so far. I watched at least 3 since last Tuesday, so I'm going to see if I can keep that up.
I watched 2, which was I watched The Whale last Tuesday exactly, and then Banshees, so I'm at 2.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think if I can, I'm going to watch... Well, I'm actually going to be getting Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris from Netflix DVD, so I'm going to be getting that in the mail soon. I would like to make sure I watch that, as well as I'm gonna try to watch a lot of the streamers. That's my first goal. So
I'm
like,
watching After Sun. That's going to be one I'm going to definitely try to watch. That or Causeway.
Yeah, Causeway's probably at the top of my list. I just subscribed again to Apple TV Plus as well as Disney Plus, so I could watch the Fire of Love documentary.
Yes, I have to get that.
And then of course, like Argentina 1985, Bardo, Navalny. Yeah. So those are kind of all the ones I can get.
All the streamers.
Without having to pay a lot of money. So.
Cool.
All right. Well, we said we were going to be a shorter episode. I think we'll barely meet that mark. So
barely.
We tried.
We spent a lot of time on Last of Us than I thought we would.
True. We can't help it. We like to talk.
Yeah. Shirt for today. Lost Souls, which is the documentary about the making of The Island of Dr. Moreau, directed by Richard Stanley, that went horribly, horribly wrong, and he got kicked off the set after a week.
Oh, man.
I got this from Severin when they did a sale one time, and it was super cheap. So I saw the documentary. It's pretty cool.
Very cool. I'll have to
Shirt for today. Yeah. Richard Stanley directed Color Out of Space. It's his most recent movie.
Oh, he did that one?
He did Color Out of Space, and yeah. He got what's his name? Went out into the middle of France to find him. Elijah Wood, because that was his production company. They got him to get back in directing because he hadn't directed since this movie.
Very cool.
Because he was like, I hate Hollywood. I'm never going to work again. Yeah, check out Hardware by him if you haven't. Great movie.
Okay. Very nice. Well, guys, I think that'll do it for episode 4 of Mile a Minute Movie Talk.
Yes.
Again, if you didn't know this, we're now on multiple options for viewing.
Yes.
Or listening, I should say. We got
all the popular ones.
Yes.
So Apple. Audio only crowd. Don't want to do it on YouTube. We got Apple, Spotify, and all your Alexas and your Googles were on there as well.
Yeah, we probably should have told them this at the beginning, but next week they can.
Yeah,
we
said it. We said it last episode, so yeah, if you don't know already, here you go.
Yeah. Well, guys, have a great rest of your night. We'll be looking to get this our watch list going for next week here, and anything else?
Yes. No, thank you, and we hope to talk to you next week about Last of Us episode 4, as well as whatever else comes to mind.
We might be watching RRR this weekend.
Yes, so we might have a triple R to talk about.
Yes. Save the best for last.
Yes.
All right, everyone. We will see you later.
Have a nice rest of your whatever.
Yes, evening, morning, whenever you view or listen. Take care.